All right, well, it is noon, so in the interest of time, why don't we get the ball rolling here? Thanks for everyone for joining us today. My name's Jasper with Score Maine, and I'm joined by Corinne Tompkins of Fork Food Lab, presenting this workshop on what to know before starting a mobile food unit business in Maine. We want to thank Corinne for putting on this presentation with us today. Um, Ren is with Fork Food Lab. They are, if you didn't know, a food incubator program within Southern Maine, and they provide a really invaluable service for mobile food units in the state. And if you didn't know about SCORE, just a quick plug is that we are a no-cost, one-on-one confidential business mentoring service. And if you don't already have a mentor with us, you can find one at score.org. Corinne, why don't you take it away?
Great. Thank you so much, Jasper. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Fork Food Lab loves collaborating with SCORE on providing these educational workshops for everyone who, is here today. We're going to be focusing on some business preparedness and some information related to getting a mobile food unit started within our state over here. So Fork Food Lab, just to recap really quick, my name's Corinne Tompkins. I'm the Deputy Executive Director for Fork Food Lab and the Director of Member Services. We are Maine's only food business incubator and Maine's largest shared manufacturing and processing facility. We recently relocated to South Portland in the middle of the summer of 2023, and we have a pretty large campus now on Darling Avenue. We purchased 42,000 square feet, which was a huge scale up from our original facility, which was in West Bayside at 5,200 square feet. So we're providing expanded services, commercial equipment, a lot of really good and important tools and resources for individuals that are interested in opening food business. And one of the types of businesses that we see, it's about 1/3 of our membership pool are these mobile food units, what we're going to be talking about today. So that being said, feel free to pop any questions into the chat if anybody has anything that they want to chime in with. And I would please ask that everybody put their microphones on mute to avoid any interruptions. Thank you. Let's see here. Come on. Sorry, I'm trying to get my slide to work. It was just working. There we go. Okay. So here's our workshop agenda today. These are the things we're going to be covering. So what is a food truck or a mobile food unit? Why open a food truck or mobile food unit business? A food truck versus a food trailer and cart. Order of operations for getting things up and running. What challenges should I consider before starting a mobile food unit business? And also, is this the right industry for me? Where can I sell food out of my mobile food unit? What is legally required to operate in the state of Maine? And then some helpful links and resources. Okay, so what is a mobile food unit? In the state of Maine, the mobile food unit is an umbrella term for identifying a food service vehicle. So something that can be transported from point A to point B, kitchen on wheels, essentially. So under this umbrella with mobile food units, we find food trucks, food trailers, bike carts, push carts, hot dog carts, to name a few. And sometimes there's some really unique units out there. There's a member that currently runs their mobile food unit business out of our kitchen, and they converted a 1967 Volkswagen van into a kitchen. So, there's this kind of there's a wide world of things that can be licensed as a mobile kitchen in the state of Maine. All mobile food units are considered mobile restaurants. And what that means is they require a lot of the same operational components that you would find in a brick and mortar restaurant location, a physical building. So things related to local, state, and federal food regulation and sanitation regulation. So things that you're going to need inside of your mobile unit is some type of three-bay sinks, refrigeration and freezers more often than not. hot holding components, electricity. You need to be able to have water that's hot enough so that it's killing germs when you're washing your hands. You need a hand washing sink. So even though you have this micro kitchen, it's going to function like a standard and licensed kitchen would. So
Real
why?
quick, Corinne,
What's
looks
that?
like your audio is clipping in and out a little bit.
Okay, let me
I'm not sure
see
if
here.
you have a setting or I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. I'm actually using my coworker's computer for this today because audio doesn't work
Okay.
on my computer.
Oh, fun.
Wonderful.
Well, it's
I'm not sure. Yes. Do you have a suggestion?
well, it looks like you're probably using the built-in setting. I would just say Jen is saying in the chat, maybe just keep the laptop or computer just a little closer to you.
Okay,
Otherwise, yeah,
we
just we
can
keep
do that.
rolling. Again, we are recording, so if we do miss anything, it should be sent out at the end, and we can review at your leisure.
Great. Thank you, Jasper. Okay, so moving on. Why open a food truck or a mobile food unit? One of the reasons why a lot of people that are interested in opening up one of these mobile food units because at some point they'd like to use this as a pipeline to lead them to maybe opening up a brick and mortar restaurant. Or somebody's already looked into how much money it costs to open a brick and mortar restaurant, and they've determined that they don't want to spend that much at the really beginning stages of starting a food business. So, by comparison to these brick and mortar locations, there's a lower barrier to entry for proving a concept rather than jumping into the commitment and lease agreements and major expenses attached to brick and mortar restaurant locations. Especially over the past 5 or 6 years, we've seen a massive spike in just the overhead costs for these real estate deals. And what we're seeing right now, especially in Maine's largest, most populated city in Portland, sometimes these brick and mortar locations are turning into, 12 and $15,000 a month lease agreements. And that's before even food cost and labor wages, utilities and things like that. So, starting out a food journey, with a micro, smaller version of what would someone would have experienced in a brick and mortar location can be really effective and really helpful and to start generating some dollars that maybe does lead you to opening a restaurant one day. The overall costs are significantly less than jumping into a brick and mortar restaurant. And what really makes so much of this so attractive for so many people is that the annual gross revenue for a food truck and how much money you could be generating out of one of these food trucks is comparable to what some people are doing out of brick and mortar restaurant locations. So, when you're removing all of the maintenance of a dining room and bathrooms and all of these other liabilities associated with letting people into a restaurant, you can be making the same amount of money without having to take on a lot of those responsibilities. Part of, what we've seen since the pandemic is in 2019, there was just under 300 licensed and registered mobile units in the state of Maine. Now, as we're walking into summer of 2025, there's over 600 of these licensed mobile units. So we're seeing an increased popularity and demand for this sector in the food industry. Choosing the right mobile unit for you. So there's a few different things you want to consider when you're thinking about buying one of these mobile units. There's new and there's used options for food trucks. Some of them can be turnkey operations. Some we really just, we've got some numbers thrown out here of kind of ballparks to consider. with new trucks costing, so, and we can even see those go up to $200,000, where a brand new food truck, where your engine that drives the vehicle is attached to the kitchen. There's definitely some benefits to having your engine connected to your kitchen. There's also some things that you might want to consider, that maybe a food truck, or separating the engine from the kitchen, having a separate vehicle to haul a trailer around. So, there's definitely pros and cons with those two options for these trailers, but you can really be spending anywhere for startup costs between, 50 to $175,000, depending on what you want to go with and how elaborate and the size of your kitchen and your trailer are, or your truck. Leasing food trucks is also an option. We have a few people that you can lease food trucks from in the state of Maine, and that could run you somewhere between $2,000 to $3,000 a month. Trailers and carts do require a vehicle for hauling, but are significantly less expensive. So those are some numbers to think about if you are just entering into this food business journey. We have this order of operations that we put together for you to kind of look at and consider. And we'll make sure that the slide deck gets sent out to everyone at the end of all this. But let's run through what this order of operations looks like for getting a mobile food unit started. One, you really want to do a lot of your research in advance. People have always, my mom used to always say to me, people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. And especially getting into, the food business, what we have to remember about this industry is that it is highly competitive. It's really volatile. It's very expensive to get into. There's a lot of rules and regulations. So spending time in advance and doing your research is critical to identifying your plan and your points for success moving forward. So things you want to be researching about are your menu and what types of services you'd like to offer the public in exchange for dollars. What types of commercial equipment do you require in order to produce your menu regularly and many, many, many times? Where are you going to be sourcing your ingredients? Do you require any type of softwares or packaging for your menu, and who's got the best price? Where are you going to find those things? Paper boats, napkins, utensils, cups, things like that. Um, some mobile food units require a legal commissary kitchen. That's one thing that Fork Food Lab can offer as a service to somebody who's interested in having a mobile food unit. But not all mobile food units require a licensed commercial kitchen to be attached to them. So something that you would identify in your research process and your research phase is your truck or your trailer self-sufficient? That's the language that the Department of Health and Human Services uses. And basically, what you can, one of the easy rules of thumb, the golden rule for identifying if your mobile food unit can be licensed as a mobile kitchen by itself, is if the largest dish on your truck fits into one of the bays for your three-bay dishwashing sink. So if the largest dish can fit in one of the sinks, there's a really good chance that your truck can be licensed as self-sufficient. If for some reason your three-bay sink is too small, or you have dishes that are too big, that's going to be a strong indicator that you will need to find a legal kitchen to attach your mobile food unit with. Um, you're with mobile food trucks and trailers, people want to get them wrapped. They want to make them look really nice with beautiful bright colors and your logo and maybe your menu. So researching who and where your truck's going to get wrapped is something to research. Where you actually want to sell food is huge. There's a lot of rules and regulations around selling food and where to park and what you're eligible to do. So making sure that you have a good solid list of vending locations so you can actually make money is important. Um, Overall general costs from your fixed and your variable perspectives. So, your fixed costs would be things like if you were leasing the truck, what your monthly lease agreement would be. Any utilities, a lot of trucks require propane in order to heat up some of their commercial equipment. Ice is something else that a lot of mobile food units need. And then you've got your variable costs, is there any maintenance that the truck requires and things like that. So you really want to get an idea and a solid projection about what you can anticipate in the year ahead or the season ahead for your mobile food unit. And then the other thing that all food business owners in the state of Maine are required to have is a food protection management certificate. There are management certificates, and that's a 5-year credential. And then there's food handler certificates, those are 3-year credentials. Anyone who wants to fill out a food business license through the DHHS is required to have the proof of the year certification. On the Fork Food Lab website, we have some links to some in-person food protection management certificate classes and proctored exams. There's also some options to do them remotely online. And basically, if you're not familiar with these food protection management courses, is they are a crash course in how to make sure that you know everything you need to know about sanitation and safety rules, about foodborne illnesses, and really how to make sure that your food business is operating to the minimum standards required at the local, state, and federal level. So it's these crash courses. When you go and take them in person, it usually happens over 2 days. Day one is you have a proctor, there's a teacher there. You go through this course material, this book. It's maybe like 200 pages or so. And then the next day you would go back, you'd review the course material, and then there would be an exam that's proctored after that. When you do these online, you have flexibility in how much time you really want to spend going through that course material. You don't have to rush through it in one day like they do in person. You can have a little more flexibility and a little more leniency to work around your schedule and take those classes when it works for you, basically. So there's a lot of stuff to research at the beginning, and this is really where you're going to leverage resources like SCORE, where you might call a Fork Food Lab to work with you. Maybe you're also working with the Maine Small Business Development Center. These are all 3 resources in our state that are available to individuals to come and talk and really sort through this research for you. Once you've done a bunch of your research and you're starting to clarify what a business might look like for you, it's really important to develop a business plan. I've opened a variety of different food businesses, restaurants, catering companies, mobile food units, etc. And it's really important to make sure that you have a good, solid business plan that works for you. What we often see people doing, and I don't know why people would advantage of a free service, is developing business plans with CEI, Coastal Enterprises, and also the Maine Small Business Development Center. They're critical resources that are providing really, really, really good and supportive information for individuals wanting to step into entrepreneurship. So developing a business plan is very important. If you need to apply for any financing, if you need to borrow money to do this, you're going to need that business plan in order to justify somebody who's going to, let you borrow their money, whether it's a bank or a credit union. They're going to want to review that business plan. So getting business plans through a certified service is really important for the next step if you require it. The other thing at this time when you're thinking about financing and how you're going to pay for everything is it's a good time to develop up the legal establishment side of your business. Are you opening an LLC or something like that? Do you need to hire a CPA? Time to really start thinking about the legal entity and your tax filing status at this time. Then you're going to think about executing some purchases, buying the mobile unit, a vehicle if you need it, any food that you're going to be preparing, any softwares like napkins and cups and utensils and things like that, the wrapping for your truck, making sure that you have everything you need. This would be the time to start spending the money to get this business open. Then once you have the truck and it's ready to go and everything's good, you've tested it out, you've turned the engine on, it drives, it works, it works, everything's good. That's a good time to then submit your business license applications. Depending on where you are and what you want to do and how you want to sell food, is going to determine what your licensing path looks like. And that's something that Fork Food Lab can provide for people is some clarity in evaluating what does the state require from their licensing perspectives. You also have to register your mobile unit at the Bureau of Motor Vehicle. It's going to be something that's driven on the street, so you have to get it registered. And then you'll be ready to schedule your health inspections and then move on to selling food. You know, there's a lot of work that goes into starting something from the inception of an idea to selling food. There's all these steps along the way. So it can feel a little overwhelming, but it's achievable, I promise you, and you've got really good resources available to you to help you sort through all of these steps along the way. Some challenges to consider when you have a mobile unit is, the weather naturally, seasonality, preparing for winter, maintenance of a vehicle. A lot of people forget that mobile units are a toaster in the summer and an ice box in the winter. So there's some working challenges for just being inside of your mobile unit. And it really is physically demanding, you know? We challenges together for people to consider because having a food business really is a lot of work. And it's important for individuals who are thinking about doing this to have a fair opportunity to evaluate the pros and the cons of, what it means to walk into this individual industry. So things like water, to elaborate on that for a little bit, so much of what we rely on with these mobile food units is really nice weather and really good summer sunny days for people to be out walking around on the street. I remember, I think it was the summer of 2021. There was like a torrential downpour on every major holiday that summer. And mobile food units across the state really took a big hit in potential dollars that they were really banking on. And that was just due to, I think in June of that year, it rained like 27 days in the month. So sometimes there's things out of your control that can really impact how much money you're really bringing in. How, when it comes to seasonality, what we have in Maine is a pretty, solid 4 seasons here. And when we see a lot of these mobile units out, they're generally operating from Memorial Day to Indigenous Peoples' Day, out for the really nicest parts of the year. Something we've also noticed since the pandemic is that what used to really consistently be this May to October season for mobile units has widened and widened and widened. And there are now more trucks operating year round than ever before in the state. We're watching an evolution of the behaviors. And, so determining what works best for you in your business is, are you only going to be open seasonally? Or are you going to try to open up that window a little bit more? Something to consider, definitely. If you do plan on working through the winter, you're going to want to winterize your truck from the beginning. When you're getting all this work done, if you're buying a leased truck, or if you're leasing a truck, or if you're getting one custom built, you really want to think about, parking in the winter, usage in the winter, and what it means to really winterize a vehicle. Failure to properly prepare your trailer to withstand some of the really bitter cold temperatures that we experience up here can cause a lot of problems. You can end up with a burst pipe and things like that in food trucks. So you really want to think about for winter storage, or if you're going to run year round, and be able to accommodate what the vehicle would need for something like that. Regular maintenance on these mobile units. Part of what is really great that I see in the mobile unit community here at Fork Food Lab is that finding the electrician that actually works on a truck, finding a mechanic that works in a food truck. These are really unique vehicles, and we don't have a huge network of people in the state that actually repairs these vehicles. So finding out who you're going to rely on for any type of maintenance early on is really, really, really important. And being able to share that information with your colleagues and your friends. That's what always happens around here. You end up making a bunch of friends in the mobile unit community. So really preparing for that maintenance is important, and also making sure that there's enough money in the bank in the event that, you blow a tire and you need to get to that wedding that you're catering. So really important stuff to think about and consider there. Again, toaster in the summer, icebox in the winter, and really leading into this physically demanding nature for these mobile units is there a lot of work. A lot of people, we've seen quite a few people over the past few years jump into a mobile unit food business, having just left, desk job where they were sitting down all day, and going from a desk job to going into this mobile food unit world. Sometimes you're standing for 12, 18 hours in a day, and it can be really hot and really cold. And when it's rainy, you have to deal with that too. So there is something to be said about what your hours are, what your schedule is going to be, and how you're going to open up a business that works for you. You're opening up a business that's going to, before you even have the chance to really figure out if it's something you like doing or not. So those are some challenges to consider. A lot of people really want to know, where can I sell food in Maine? And when you are developing your plan, you really need to identify what towns and cities you plan on selling food in. Because there's permits that are required for all of these places. So, with public property, we see, especially in Portland, mobile units. There's a map that the city of Portland has put out. You can access it online, and it tells you every section and zone of town where you're eligible to pull up and park on public property for selling food. The corner of Congress Street and High Street is one of them. A lot of people famously remember the Eastern Promenade and how many trucks used to go up there to sell food. They've modified the rules over there now, and it's about $4,000 a year for the lottery permit to park up there. So those are some things to consider with the public property. It's important to not make assumptions on where you think you're going to be selling food, because there's already some cities and towns in Maine that still don't authorize permits for street vending for mobile food units. Scarborough famously is one of those. Wells is an example, even though that's where Congdon's is down, the big food truck park. You can't apply for an application to sell on the street there because it's not authorized. You have to go through the owner of Congdon's Park. And he's the one that actually holds the application for the city of Wells, because that's the only designated place where mobile food units are allowed to sell. Same thing up in Freeport. You really can't drive and park anywhere on the street. They are just getting a little mobile food truck park together up there too, which is a step in the right direction for mobile food units. But there's a lot of towns, especially on coastal Route 1, that still do not authorize public vending. So important to look that up before you get started. There's also private property. What we see a lot of people do is, going to having a food truck that's available for private events and being on private land, going to basically, there's a little concert that happens on Cousins Island where a food truck is hired for something like that, and it's not on public land, it's in somebody's backyard. So essentially the rules and regulations for private property are very different than wanting to go park a truck on a street that is plowed by the city. That's a good way to kind of think about it is if the town or the city is responsible for plowing the snow on the street, you're probably going to need a special permit to be there. Another popular avenue that we see people with mobile food units selling food in Maine is at fairs, festivals, public events, and then also offering an extended service for catering. Whether you end up bringing that food truck to somebody's wedding or even preparing a bunch of food and dropping it off, and maybe you don't even need the food truck at all. Most people still end up taking on those catering jobs because it's still really good money, and if it's drop off catering, the costs associated with taking on a gig like that are going to be a lot less than somebody who's going to require you to bring the mobile food unit with you. So you have the opportunity to really think about and consider all of the other statewide events that are going on. We see this all the time. People understand that Pork Food Lab is this hub where a lot of mobile food units are licensed and work out of. So a lot of these people hosting fairs and festivals call up the kitchen and they say, "Hey, we're looking for food trucks. Do you know anybody in the community that wants to sign up for these vending events?" So this has been a really good pipeline for mobile food units to be accessing paid gigs and really helping them get to the other side of where am I even going to sell food. A lot of people change their mind and switch up locations and do a combination of everything that's listed on this page right here. So, who doesn't want to make money? It's important to know what's available to you with your mobile unit and what you want to think about before you just assume you can go there. Um, let's see here. So legal requirements for getting a mobile food unit started. One, you're going to need that tax filing status. A lot of mobile food units do end up going with the LLC, the limited liability. The protections that come with that. A lot of mobile units do end up hiring an employee or two. That's probably the most common tax status that we see in the mobile unit community, but you should talk to somebody, a professional, a lawyer, an accountant, something like that, and really explore what your options are and make the best decision for you moving forward. I already mentioned, and it's listed here again, that 5-year food protection management certification. I will note that there's like a price range for these, whether you do them in person or do them online. Sometimes they're like $120. Sometimes they're a little closer to $220, depending on who you go to and what's going on. But just something to kind of throw out there and think about. Um, you're going to need some business liability and vehicle insurance for something like this. So, if you end up with a food truck, not only do you want the whole truck insured, you're going to be driving it on the road in case you hit somebody, somebody hits you. It's also a kitchen. Or some detailed options for what really does need to be included in your business liability insurance plan. So with the food truck, maybe you want to insure the commercial equipment inside of the vehicle, the refrigeration and the freezers in there too. Any products that you have, if you were to have loss of product, is that something you want to be covered through an insurance claim? So it's important to really evaluate, what is the best policy for you, what needs coverage, and, really, really get something that works for you. You very well might end up needing a relationship with a licensed commissary kitchen if you're not identified as self-sufficient, as I mentioned before. Though, even for mobile units that are identified as self-sufficient, sometimes you still need like a commercial delivery site, a place with a loading dock so you can order cases of napkins and tomatoes and things like that. A lot of these commercial delivery purveyors don't drop items off at residential homes. So there's, even if you don't necessarily have to cook food inside of the licensed kitchen, sometimes it's not bad to have a relationship with the kitchen in case you have a really big catering week or some really big events and you need a little extra refrigeration and frozen storage space. So not bad to think about it. It's always good to have a friend in the back. Your vehicle registration, we mentioned that. Your Department of Health and Human Services state business licenses. So I like people to really understand that for every service you end up providing in the state of Maine for, if you want to be a mobile food unit, and if you also want to be a catering company, that's two different services. There's a state license that's required for each one of those services. So you might end up with multiple licenses. For food trucks and trailers that are not identified as self-sufficient, they have another DHHS license that they're required to have. So what we see with a lot of mobile food units is they have up to three licenses from the Department of Health and Human Services. And then there's going to be a variety of other licenses that are required too. Some of them might be in the municipal cities and towns that we have here. So Portland, South Portland, and Lewiston are the three municipalities in the state of Maine. If you are going to be selling food in one of those places, there's another special license that you need for those three. And then, if you're based out of Portland, let's say, that's where your kitchen is, that's where your mobile unit's licensed out of. If you want to go sell food at an event in Westbrook or Bangor, you're going to need a temporary event permit for something like that. So the most expensive temporary event permit we've seen is the one for the city of Portland. It's $93. And then on average, when you're a food truck that wants to go somewhere else, you're going to spend between $10 to $35 on these temporary event permits. But those are pretty regular. That's very common for mobile food units to be getting temporary event permits for all over the state. You're going to want to be getting those temporary event permits 7 business days before you plan on selling food somewhere. That's kind of a general rule of thumb, but these are all things that you really want to consider and think about from legal requirements. And then we've got a list of helpful links and resources over here. So obviously SCORE, thank you all so much for coming to this workshop today, sponsored by SCORE. We'd be lost without them. They're a huge service for people entering into entrepreneurship in the state. And Small Business Development Center. They have a few incredible advisors over there that are really intertwined with Fork Food Labs financial model and what we offer for services. So we're complementary in our relationships with each other, and they're a huge ally for individuals. Coastal Enterprises is another amazing service. They have locations in Brunswick and Portland. They provide some business planning, business advising, and overall excellent resources. They also can have a financial component that maybe you're actually borrowing money from CEI with the CEI approved business plan. Fork Food Lab, we're here, Maine's only food business incubator. Feel free to reach out to us via email if there's any other questions or any follow-ups after this workshop, or really anytime. We have a lot of excellent information on our website. I encourage everybody to take a deep dive on it, whether you think you're going to use our services or not. There's just a lot of really good information for anyone getting into food business on the site. Legal Food Hub out of Boston. They can provide free legal services for food business owners, critical service. Over the years, we've found that the Food Liability Insurance Program of Maine, also known as FLIP Maine, is providing some of the most comprehensive food insurance, food business insurance packages for people. When you call Liberty Mutual, they specialize in home and car. They don't necessarily specialize in food. So we've seen from non-food insurance companies higher monthly premiums with inadequate coverage. So we recommend just going to the people who know exactly what they're doing from the start. There is a link here for getting a food protection management certificate online. And then the state of Maine provides this document, the Mobile Eating Place Operators Guide. It's like an 18-page document, but that's the link to the PDF right there. Lots of really good information in there too. Definitely. So that is my slideshow. Let's open this up for some, um, here we go, Q&A. I think that there's some questions.
Yeah, we've got a few good ones queued up in the chat. We've got a
Awesome.
few from Matthew to start it out. One, good one. Where would you say that you see most individuals fail in the process of starting their food truck or mobile unit?
We see individuals failure that we've seen is from people underestimating the amount of work that it really takes to
Mm,
keep this going up and running. And with the combination of startup costs associated in the mobile food unit world, a lot of people see what they're borrowing for money. It's, thousands of dollars. And then they get nervous about, how am I going to pay this money back? And then we see people overextending themselves, working way too hard because they didn't set up that business plan in an adequate, and thoughtful way. So there's contention points along the entire process, but if you really do heed our advice here and observe the steps that we recommend, these are ways to mitigate and lower the chances of running into risk of failure.
absolutely. Another place that we here at SCORE can help guide you through as well. Right.
Yeah.
And yeah. Another great one from Matthew. Good talking point, good conversation to have. Is there a legal amount you're allowed to charge for something? For example, water. Can you charge something ridiculous that no one would pay for, or charge something that very, very low that kills the competition around you?
There's really no legal language around how you're going to be pricing your menu. There are some general rules that food business owners consider and think about. But if you want to charge $1,000 for a bottle of water, no one's going to buy that from you. But there's no licensing or authority that's going to say, hey, you can't do it's private enterprise. We live in capitalism, so you can be charging anything really for your prices. You're going to be evaluating though your own competition and what generally other people are already selling that bottle of water for. Why would you undermarket if you know what you can get for it? But why would you, attach such a ridiculous price to it that nobody's going to buy it? So you can always do your market research and really identify, what makes the most sense.
Absolutely. Christina, wondering, does it make sense to apply for all the applicable licenses at once, even though you may not be ready to do the truck itself yet, but you are ready for catering slash food processing?
You, when you're thinking about food business licensing, it's a plan that you can build. And so a lot of people don't know on day one what they are always, what it's hard to forecast. If we had a crystal ball, we wouldn't be in the food business. We'd be making money doing something else. So, but there is the opportunity for people to be building plans make sense for them over time. So if on day one you have this mobile food unit and you get that license, and then you realize there's a demand for your services in the catering and wedding realm, and you want to add that catering license on, you can definitely do that. You don't have to know everything on day one.
Yeah, Lori had a good addition to that, that there's usually dates on the licenses, so that's something to probably consider as well. Uh,
Yeah, so like your state licenses And most people, most of our licensing bodies in the state have, this calendar where if I get my DHHS catering license on February 24th, 2025, that's valid until February 23rd, 2026. When
Hmm.
almost you have to renew the next day. It's only in the municipalities, and especially Portland, that they have their own separate calendar for business licenses. So, like the mobile unit license to sell in the city of Portland has a calendar year of April 1st to March 31st. So, I've only really seen that in Portland. We're in South Portland, one of the three municipalities, and all of our licenses are good for 365 days from the day that you get it. For people that are thinking about selling food in Portland, you are eligible to have that mobile unit fee prorated up to 50%. Um, if you end up not getting licensed until like August or something like that, rather than when their calendar year gets started, you talk to somebody at City Hall, you are eligible to have that fee prorated.
Great information. Matthew, following up on the where users fail topic, would you say it's an all or nothing kind of mindset then? This doesn't seem like a weekend business kind of thing. It's a small business I'd have to spend my time on, or should I wait for my quote unquote retirement?
Interesting. That's a personal choice for you. And what I really encourage people to do when they are setting up these business plans is one of the first things I ask people individually all the time is what's really going to work for you? If you only have 10 hours a week to work on a food business idea and a plan, and that's, what your week to week allotment could be for something like that, there is maybe a mobile food unit is the right path for you, but maybe there's a way to modify how you think about, the food business you want to open. Especially we've seen the popularity and the draw towards mobile food units so much over the past like specifically 10 years. But like I said, it's a lot of work. But I am a firm believer in really, being honest with yourself, evaluating yourself from the beginning and really identifying, what can you commit to and what can't you commit to? Because there's no wrong answers in the planning phase. You can change your mind 1,000 times, and that's okay.
Great, great point there. I think Giselle here with an interesting topic. What kinds of products and services would you say are trending? And I mean, I might add to that a little bit. Do you think that following, a bit of virality or trending, is good for a mobile unit business?
Yeah, absolutely. Any of this virality of these TikTok videos, Instagram, Facebook, things like that, it's huge. That's huge publicity, huge marketing, huge advertising. Kind of act like a bubble and a little bit of a fad. And, does it create long-term sustainability for your sales? Maybe. Really hard to tell from the beginning, but having these like viral videos and viral moments for your food truck, providing a little bit of humor. I think about one of the businesses that works with us, the Ironclad Eats food truck. They,
My favorites in town.
take this approach and tactic that's very silly and very lighthearted. And they get a lot of shareability due to how silly and goofy they are. That's like their shtick. So that works for them. As for like habits and trends right now and like what's upticking, we're seeing, I think we see a lot of interest in the old classic standbys that people really do appreciate and love and know that they love. So it's like if you've got the best cheeseburger or like a good twist on a really good burger, that's something that's going to sell. People love cheeseburgers. So sometimes when it comes to, identifying what do I specialize in, what's in my menu, I encourage people to be authentic to themselves. If you're Korean and you make the most delicious Korean food, go with that, don't try to reinvent the wheel and do something that's out of your realm of expertise. It's also important to remember simplicity too. A lot of people don't necessarily need bells and whistles and all of this crazy wacky stuff. A lot of people do like a simple, clean menu and things like that. So, what we do is there's a lot of interest in international food, you know. When we see, one of the most popular businesses, it's a mobile unit out of our kitchen, is a Nigerian barbecue, pop up and mobile unit. The demand for that food is huge. And we do have an increased African population and representation in southern Maine and into Lewiston and things like that too. So I think that there's, a new demand. There's new people in the area, new Mainers. They're looking for something that's culturally appropriate for them. I totally get it. While also exposing and introducing people to new food that is not, native to Maine. Come to find out, a lot of people really love it. Yeah. So there's all different metrics to gauge, what's trending and what's popular. I think the most important thing to do is to go look at these mobile units and see who's already out there and what they're selling, who has a long line, who doesn't have a long line, which businesses are getting accepted to the Thompson's Point summer concert series every year. Those are some good ways to really just prove to yourself what's popular and what do people want.
I think it's definitely one of the things that interests me most about it is trying all sorts of different things, and I think that's what a mobile
Yeah.
unit definitely tends to offer. And then one kind of, I would say, not quite last one, but two kind of similar questions from Amy and Matthew about, what would the typical profit margin be? Would you say that if successful, it could provide, kind of a living wage?
Again, really going back to having this solid business plan. So many people that are getting into food business, and it's one of the most rookie mistakes that I see people do all the time, is they take their salary from the profit margins that are generated from the business rather than building in a salary for themselves and letting the profit kind of stand alone and be money that gets reinvested back into the business. So, if you need to make 50 grand a year or 100 grand a year or something like that, build that into your business plan, and you're going to know exactly how much food you need to sell in order to do that. So don't diminish what you require from this business. Again, you got to make it work for you, not the other way around. So but we've seen some incredible profit margins on these trucks. I mean, they really are comparable to brick and mortar restaurants. They can be $1 million revenue trucks. You can be putting quite a bit of stuff out there, especially if you strategize, depending on the types of events that you go to, catering, private parties, things like that. If you want to dabble into going over state lines, we have some mobile units that like to travel down to Boston for big events and things like that. They're all within the realm of reality, and you can really push some big numbers, seven figures, into a food truck for sure.
Definitely heartening to hear, especially as the landscape is always shifting. I know
Yeah,
that my personal example is being part of the Smokey and Brian's truck that life kind of ended up going in the way, but while it was going, we had some great fun with it.
yeah,
So I think it's definitely something that a score mentor could help with that budget. And to an extent, we help you figure it out, not necessarily do it for you. And that's kind of one of the disclaimers about the score services. But
yeah,
it's definitely a part of it that we here at Score can help you with. And that goes into Lori's question here. Score does indeed have an office in Portland. That you could, if you're willing to travel to, you can meet with a mentor in person. Occasionally, if you're outside of Portland, there are mentors who are willing to meet at a neutral location or your own business. But for the most part, a lot of our in-person meetings happen in Portland. But yeah. While we're still here, any more questions, anyone? I know a lot of great discussion. Very good, important topic if you're looking into starting a mobile food unit.
definitely. And I might encourage, people here, if I'm not really sure, who the profile is in this group. Maybe you're people that are thinking about a mobile food unit. Maybe you've already recently purchased one and you're getting ready to open up this upcoming season, for whatever it's worth. I encourage anybody, who's walking into food entrepreneurship to sign up for the Fork Food Lab emails. like I
What
said, whether you are receiving some services that we offer, if you're whether or not you're in the membership pool here, we still put out a lot of really good information for all individuals to access. And I absolutely encourage people to go sign up for it. We send out a weekly flyer once a week, and it can really it's for market research. It's good to put a pulse on what's happening around you, what types of resources are available to you, and we're an ally for individuals. So I would absolutely encourage everybody to sign up for the Fork Food Lab weekly flyer. There's really good information in there.
I recommend it as well. Definitely one of my favorite ways to find the new and up and coming food trucks, as well as some
Yeah,
interesting specials some people may be having.
definitely.
All right. Well, if we're all set with questions today, I want to thank everyone for attending today's workshop. We will be sending out the recording and slides once the recording is available. And you'll also be receiving a survey along with that email. We'd greatly appreciate you filling it out, letting us know, where we could improve, what other topics you'd like to hear about. And as a reminder, one more time, if you don't already have a SCORE mentor, you can find one at no cost at score.org. It's as simple as entering your zip code and a little bit of information about the business you're looking for help with. I want to thank Corinne again for putting on a great presentation and Fork Food Lab for helping out here. And yeah, if you and keep your eyes peeled as well. We have one more workshop with Corinne coming up
Next Monday.
soon. What to know before starting a food service business. That one is in a few weeks, or actually next week.
It's next Monday. Yep, same time.
Yeah,
Great.
same bat channel, same bat place, as they say. Well, anyway, thanks again, everyone, for attending. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You.